everybody, it's Dan Martin. Today's video is going to be on learning how to get more energy into your golf swing. As you guys all know, I usually talk much more about using my training aid, the Pro, and the extension of angular momentum. But now we're going to talk about how to get energy into the swing so you get more energy into the actual natural extension of momentum as it travels through the body and the club head naturally accelerates. So there's ways to move and things that you need to do with your body that are essential to doing that. And we're going to use my exercise, the cone toss, to exemplify that. But before I get started, I want to kind of get some basic explanations on kind of how the body moves to move its mass around to get some energy out of the earth and get it into the swing. So your backswing phase is a swing back where you have a lateral into a rotational and even a little bit of an extending movement where you extend the spine. Really long hitters tend to get a lot of extension like long drive champions. And then we have a lateral and a pressuring movement. And then we finally have a pushing up that creates the rotation. So the actual swing or the extension of momentum in the swing happens after this lateral and vertical and starts right when there's an up push. Once the up push happens, that rotates the pelvis, which rotates the thorax, and then allows, once you train yourself, to allow the extension of momentum to take over. So this loading, this kind of getting back and transitioning movement is very, very complicated for most players because they don't let it happen. They don't understand what they need to do with their body to feel how to get the golf club to swing. And it is the feeling of actually getting your body and your joints to get stretched, and most players unfortunately try to contract. Okay? So when you get to the top of your golf swing, or you're getting into your transitional phase, it actually starts happening before the swing is even up at the top. When you start to load back down on the ground, you start to create a stretch through the body and a pressure into the ground that actually pulls on the muscle spindle and pulls on the joints. And our autonomic nervous system, it's not even part of the brain, whenever it feels that, it likes to contract. So you have to bypass something that's called myotatic reflex. You have to learn how to bypass that and train your brain to tell your body it's okay to feel that. Great athletes do that, and that goes for all kind of sports where you're trying to propel an object, or like discus. You have to learn how to understand certain muscles are going to have their contracting ability, but other muscles have to learn how to be stretched, and the joints and the ligaments need to be stretched so you can start to get the flow of momentum working for you. My favorite exercise actually to start to get energy in a very dynamic way that's easy to understand is what I call the cone toss. These cones, I've ordered them over and over again. You can get them from various different sources online, but they're basically 18-inch cone. If you're a little kid, you might want something a little smaller and a little lighter, but it's about 4 pounds. Has a fairly heavy base, so it wouldn't be the cones you kind of pick up like a Home Depot don't really work as well. They're not quite as heavy. They could do the job, but you like to have a little bit of weight. So I want enough weight that it's going to actually pull on me. Okay, and so the exercise is simple. The first thing I want to do is I want to learn how to just let the cone hang. Okay, so most players, when they set up the golf swing, they don't understand that when they're ready to go, they're kind of already in this tense, kind of contracted state. Their chest is tight, especially poorer golfers. Their chest is really tight, and they're ready to grab that club and move it. Well, to swing something, it has to have a tension force to it. Okay, it has to be as if, in this case, your arms were a little bit more like ropes. So when I set up, I don't want to resist the cone or squeeze it tight. I actually want to hold it lightly and let it pull on my joints. So I feel like, okay, my arms are pulling, and then that kind of gives me a sense, okay, I got to activate and stabilize. And that's exactly what I want. I want my upper kind of from diaphragm up. I want it to be able to be extended and free and be able to pull on. And then from diaphragm down, I want some energy and some where I can feel like I can move laterally, vertically, and rotationally to kind of push the ground and get things started. Now the cone toss itself is simple. Once I get that feeling of being ready to go here, I want to just kind of toss this back and forth. So I want to start with the idea, can I just swing the cone, and every time I change directions, can I feel it pulling on me? So if you guys notice, I kind of just push, as this is pulling this way, I start to push back in the other way. I'm teaching my body to bypass myotatic reflex. I notice when I give this exercise to golfers that are really tense over the ball, they tend to want to kind of grab the cone and lift it. So they try to do stuff like this. So that tells me right off the bat, it's like, wow, they had a lot of work to do on teaching their body how to learn how to allow a swinging force to come through it. So I'm going to get that thing going. And then once I get it going a couple times, I'm gonna again try to transfer that into my toss. And I actually wanna step a little bit. So as it's going back, I'm gonna step in, and once I kind of push the ground here, I'm gonna push up through my legs, and that's what's gonna start the energy where momentum starts to transfer. And so it looks like this. Back a couple times and step, and then I just toss that cone. And if I toss it really well, it'll come out on kind of a flatter trajectory. If I'm not very good at cone tossing, here's what happens. If I lift and I kind of contract against it, I can't transfer momentum. It won't pull away from me. So I start trying to push the cone. Or even more common is when players struggle with this exercise, they get it kind of going back, but then they lift it at the last second, they lose the stretch force through their body, and then they throw it up in the air with their shoulders, okay? So those are kind of the pitfalls in the cone exercise. But again, what we want is we want to teach our body how to feel in this transitional phase pressure. So there's that lateral downward pressure, and then the pushing up starts the sequence, or the kinematic sequence that allows momentum to flow through our body. So one more time, back and forth, step, and let it go. And that's the cone toss.